Welcome to the Summary of Knowledge and Skills for Guitar Fundamentals 2, Chapter 1. Remember that these summary videos are supposed to provide a brief recap and review of all of the materials covered in previous chapter, so that you know that any piece of knowledge you actually did learn, any skill you actually did get your fingers on and you can play. You should use this and any one of the summary videos as a recap and a little test for yourself to make sure that you're knowledgeable and competent at the information and the skills presented in the chapter, so that you're ready to move on to the next chapter. In this chapter 1, we discussed music theory. It was a brief introduction to music theory. We started with a discussion of intervals. What is an interval? So for example, in this case, you should be able to reel right off. You should be able to say, what is an interval? It's the basic unit of measurement in music. And how do we measure intervals? Well, they're measured by the distance from one note to the next note. So that, for example, you can say that one note is a half step, or a whole step, or a step and a half, or 2 whole steps away from another note. Then we moved on from intervals to building into scales. We talked about the C major scale and how the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do idea actually gets played on the guitar. We talked about different ways to play it on the guitar, stretching it all out on one string, and then how the guitar is made so that you can play the same note in more than one place. Remember, that's a very important concept, so that you can play the C major scale or any major scale in different physical locations on the guitar. Then we talked about some basic ways to practice the C major scale. We learned some basic picking techniques, some downstroke ideas, some upstroke ideas, some alternate picking ideas where you combine downstrokes and upstrokes one after the other. We also introduced the A minor scale, so that you have a minor scale now to play, and how to play that in various locations. We also introduced the C minor scale by way of contrasting the C major and the C minor scales, so you can see and hear and play the difference between all of those. So, if you've got a good grasp on what intervals are, if you understand what the C major scale is and how and where to play it on the guitar, if you understand the A minor and the C minor scales, if you have a good grasp on the various picking techniques that we use and can play those scale exercises up to speed along with the videos and the lessons, good for you. It's time to move on to the next chapter. If you can't, I strongly suggest you go back to those lessons, review them, practice along with them until you can get them, until you can get them clearly, cleanly, concisely, and then you can consider yourself competent, and then you'll be ready to move on to Chapter 2, where we've got lots more lessons for you. We'll see you there.